Our next speaker is Adam Spence. Adam has led the development of SVX as founder and CEO, and for more than 10 years he's focused his work driving social, economic, and environmental justice through community development, education, social innovation, and public policy change. At MaRS, Adam helped found the MaRS Center for Impact Investing and School for Social Entrepreneurship. He was Executive Director of Ontario Association of Food Banks for 5 years, a community animator for skilled trades in Hamilton, and led the Ontario Undergraduate Student Alliance. Adam was awarded Queen's Jubilee Medal in 2002, and 2012 he was named the McMaster University's 125 People of Impact, an honor given to McMaster staff and alumni who have made the greatest impact over the past 125 years. We are running a bit late, but we will make up the time during dinner. So Adam, you have the full half an hour to yourself. Please help me welcome Adam.
So thank you very much. And my biography was actually written by Rob Ford's biographer. So too soon? Too soon? No? Okay, good. Excellent. This is being recorded, so that's even better. So I want to talk to you about impact investing or mobilizing private capital for public good, and really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak today. I realize dinner is coming soon, but I'm sure I can go through this in a bit faster fashion, so I'll be able to get through more in less than 30 minutes. But I will make it interactive. And so I'm looking at the front of the room and identifying people that I know. Jonathan. Charles, there we go, Duncan, excellent. So we'll make this interactive and live. So what I want to talk about, obviously, is impact investing, but a little about the paradigm that we're facing right now, impact investing itself, some of the drivers, and then the initiative that we're working on, which is SVX, or Social Venture Connection. So first off, just a bit of where I'm from. So I'm from MaRS, which is an innovation center based in Toronto, and our focus is on building, animating, and driving Canada's innovation agenda, social, economic, environmental innovation. And we do that in a number of different ways. One is by driving excellent ventures, by building talent, and by advancing systems change. And impact investing is what we would describe as systems change. One point on the venture side is that last year MaRS had about 1,400 clients, and they raised in and around $375 million in financing from a variety of sources. There are ventures in clean technology, life sciences, information communication, entertainment, and deep social impact. So that's where I'm from. But I want to talk about the current and emerging paradigm for making money and doing good, and it's represented by a couple of things. First off is this gentleman. How many people know who this person is and what they represent? Gecko. I heard Gecko. What's Gecko's first name?
Gordon.
Gordon. Excellent. Awesome. Perfect. So what is the axiom that he represents?
Capitalism.
Capitalism. Excellent. What else? What does he say?
Greed is good.
Greed is good. Excellent. How many people think greed is good? One lonely guy in the front. Maybe two. Excellent. So his motto, wearing his suspenders, smoking his Joe Camels, buying low and selling high, working with a sweet computer in the corner there, is the motivation is that business can only have a single bottom line. That's money, right? So that's one paradigm. Greed is good. The second is represented by these two gentlemen. That's Barack and Bono, obviously arguing which one of them has more magazine covers, which one is more popular. What do you think they represent? What are the kind of institutions or backgrounds that they would come from at a super high level?
True greed.
True greed. All right. Well, we have an interesting student in the front. I'm looking forward to having a conversation over dinner with him. Where is Obama from? Hawaii? Yeah, he's from Hawaii. Allegedly. Oh dear, this is going to descend into madness. To the back.
Development guy.
I'm sorry.
He's a community development guy.
Community development, right. So he represents community development or charity, and also he is a representative of the U.S. government. So he's the President of the United States, just in case I needed to check that with everybody. So,
You want to call her up for it?
yeah, exactly. I shouldn't have started with that. But so they represent government and charity. The paradigm is only charity and government can do good. That we have this belief that the only people that are able to do good things are government and charity. And the only thing that business can do is evil things. And that's obviously not true. That actually there's an emerging paradigm that in terms of tackling our most pressing problems, poverty, climate change, homelessness, that alongside philanthropy, alongside government, we require enterprise. We also require investment to be able to tackle these problems. So it's important for us to think about a need to be able to reshape the nature of business, reshape the nature of capital, and doing that within a reasonable time frame. So what is impact investing? How many people know what impact investing is? 4.5. Excellent. So I wanted to be a high school teacher when I was younger, and this gives me an opportunity to play that role. Who would like to tell me what impact investing is of those 4.5 people? At the back. Excellent.
Investing with an eye to a return that's other than financial, whether it's social or environmental.
Perfect. Anyone want to riff off that? That was great. Great definition. So, it's an investment approach aims to solve social or environmental challenges while generating some form of financial returns. So you're not only going to have the social impact and the financial impact, you're putting that all together, right? The idea is how do we get capital to be able to balance people, planet, and profit, having a triple bottom line. So going back to that paradigm, how are we getting enterprise, how are we getting investment to have multiple objectives to it? And there are lots of examples in Canada of impact investments, from co-ops to nonprofits and housing to clean energy, the whole mix. Let's think of one example, which is just up the road from us, and that's Regent Park in Toronto. So it was a community that faced tremendous social and economic exclusion. There are some streets you just didn't go down 10 years or so ago. It didn't have a grocery store, lacked a financial institution, didn't have something as simple as a coffee shop to have a safe and welcoming conversation. And the housing there was faced with tremendous decay. And so it needed $1 billion to revitalize that. They got $60 million in grants from government. That was a long way to go to get to $1 billion. They got $400 million in a variety of commercial interests, commercial investments in mixed projects, mixed commercial residential. That left a gap. So they issued a bond over 2 separate series, $450 million, 5% per year, 40 years. And within 20 minutes total, this investment was subscribed or invested by institutional investors. So that investment allowed for the creation and development over a 15-year period of about 6,000 to 7,000 units of housing, financial institution returns to the neighborhood, RBC, Sobeys, which does community hiring practices there, and you have somewhere safe to have a cup of coffee at Tim Hortons. I'm from Hamilton, so I think that Tim Hortons is awesome, and I'm glad that it came to Regent Park. But bottom line, it's a safe place to have a double done, which is great, with friends or family. And so this capital has 2 key features associated with it, just as it does in those other examples that were on the either side. You have some form of impact, energy efficiency, building housing units, providing jobs for marginalized populations or persons that face barriers, and then having some form of return. It could be 1%, 2%, 8% per year. It doesn't matter. But these are the key things about impact investing. Also important to note that there's a lot of capital. There's a lot of money that's moving in this direction. And so in Canada right now, there's about $5.3 billion in assets that are invested in this way. Globally, it's about $100 billion. But the momentum of this is also significant. It's going to grow over the next 10 years to about $30 billion in Canada, and then $400 billion to $1 trillion over that same time frame around the world. And so that's a JP Morgan stat. That's not an Adam Spence stat that was pulled out of thin air. So these are viable financial institutions that are projecting these increases. And it's in clean technology, sustainable food, affordable housing, and barrier-breaking employment. So as you're thinking about developing enterprises or maybe even investing, these are where we're seeing the trend lines. And also, I think important, to denote that impact investing, it's not a new asset class. It's not that all of a sudden there's this new type of investment that's out there. It's an approach to investing that lines up with anyone's investment portfolio. So it could be in public debt, private debt, but if you think about your investment pie, fixed income, equities, cash and cash equivalents. But it's about drawing a small circle inside that has that impact focus associated with it. And there are a lot more deals that are evolving that have been reported over time. And this kind of capital also fits within a spectrum. So there is a mix that's necessary amongst entrepreneurs that you have to work alongside grants, patient capital loans, as well as equity in order to build the right kind of strategies. So it's not that there is one silver bullet approach to this kind of investing. There's lots of sources as well in terms of impact capital. Again, if you're an entrepreneur, you're thinking about securing financing. It comes from the traditional types of sources, but those folks that are looking to have that impact and return alongside it. So you have the 3 F's, friends, family, and fools. Again, they're not fools, but folks that are willing to take a bit of a rider on you, that they're willing to take a risk. And it was what we describe as impact angels or social venture capitalists, angel networks. And then on the more formal side, you have impact funds. You'll hear from an individual, an excellent individual later on today that's going to talk about that. Mainstream financial institutions, alternative financial institutions, and foundations. So folks from BDC to RBC, the Toronto Enterprise Fund, to Resilience Capital, to the J.W. McConnell Family Foundation. These are all impact investors. So what's driving this trend? Why am I here at 6:53 in the evening on a Wednesday talking to you? What do you think is motivating the interest in impact investing? Would anyone like to take a shot?
Profit.
Profit, okay, great. Consistent, I like it. In the back.
Well, the high cost of government services needs to be another approach.
Great, perfect.
Sustainable investment options.
Right, increasing the number of opportunities that are out there.
Supporting change and social good.
Great, anyone else?
It de-risks an investment to a degree. If there's an alternative motivation than strictly money, there's less likelihood of burnout.
Great, that's a great answer.
The downturn in the global economy and how to make things more sustainable now.
Great. Was there one in the back as well? Any others? No, you guys are awesome. That was fantastic answers, better than the ones I have, but lots of them that line up well. So, one on the social change side, so that was mentioned. There's lots of problems out there: poverty, climate change, public and private sector transition, energy demand. In Ontario, there are 400,000 people that turn to food banks every month. There was just a report out yesterday that talked about the need across the country: 800,000 people that don't have something as simple as bread or milk. When we think about climate change as well, the cost is going to be between $1 and $3 trillion over the next century or half century. And then when we think about government, its ability to tackle these problems is also very limited. That we're in a current period of austerity. And as represented by the Honourable Minister of Finance, Jim Flaherty. But we also have entrepreneurs that are building resilient business models to tackle these problems and turning to investors for support. This is Sima Pampari. She is the founder and CEO of TiESep. It's a local food-based enterprise based here in Toronto. They serve local vegan, sustainably sourced food in reusable containers delivered by persons with disabilities on e-bikes made by women in Thorncliffe Park. It's the purest food that will ever touch your lips. And if you go there and you tell her that I sent you, you get a 10% discount, and I get 10% of the proceeds. So just let her know, promo code Adam. And a final thing that's also driving the agenda is the many organizations, governments, media, major players in terms of foundations and elsewhere that are advancing impact investing in Canada and around the world. Other people that are driving this as well, like I come from the MaRS Center for Impact Investing. It's our objective to advance and build the impact investing marketplace in the country. So we're an actor driving that. Our objective is how do we mobilize private capital to tackling pressing problems. And I just want to make sure that you know that that's not, again, replacing the role of government or charity, but being an actor alongside, which is really important. A lot of different initiatives that you might be interested in engaging in or following up on. If you get really excited about social finance, after this presentation, you go home, 9:45, you're talking to your family, your friends, your kids. You're like, go to socialfinance.ca, because that's where you're going to find out all you ever want to know about impact investing in social finance. Other things, we've got the impact investing platform, which I'll talk about, our work with B corporations and our policy agenda. Supported by a lot of folks. I want to make sure I mention all of them as I am being recorded at this time. That's the Rockefeller Foundation, J.W. McConnell Family Foundation, TMX Group, KPMG, Government of Ontario, Tories, LLP, Hamilton Community Foundation, and RBC, and lots of other strategic partners as well. So they are actors in driving the agenda. So what is the SPX? Go over this in the last 7 minutes or so. How many people have heard of the SPX? Oh wow. I never go into rooms and people raise their hands like that. Great, so that's awesome. So you know a little bit about it, fantastic. So it's an impact investing platform connecting ventures, funds, investors, and service providers to catalyze debt and equity investments that would generate both the potential for financial return as well as social and or environmental impact. Brought to you by all those partners that I mentioned before, but also supported and developed by the folks at the working group here in Toronto. It's been a great partnership with the TMX group or the Toronto Stock Exchange. They actually helped us co-develop this. So in that way, it's a great corporate social innovation. And it's also a registered dealer, restricted dealer with the Ontario Securities Commission. It took us 6 years to be able to develop this initiative. So it took quite a bit of time to be able to pull all the partners together. And the team behind it is absolutely outstanding. So the problem was, we knew that there are all these, investors looking for opportunities and ventures looking for capital, but ventures lacked access to capital. They couldn't find it. The cost of raising it also could be very high. Investors, in terms of doing due diligence and finding opportunities, there's no single access point for people to be able to connect. And so I had watched the movie Trading Places, somewhere around 1988 or 1989, I'm not sure. Has anyone ever seen this movie? Excellent, so I'm not dating myself or making an awkward pop culture reference as I often do. But I thought if they can do orange futures, why can't we create a social stock market? And so it seemed really simple, but after a great collaborative and partners coming together, we did it. We were able to create an impact investing platform, which we would describe as eHarmony meets impact investing. So we connect people for mutually beneficial long-term relationships where capital is exchanged for impact and return. And on the venture side, it's co-ops, for-profits, nonprofits, and charities that are looking for capital, and then accredited investors that are looking for investments. And they go through a rigorous review process, which I'll briefly talk about. But our function is we go out and we search, so we find these kinds of investors, ventures and funds. We take them through a screening process. We conduct basic due diligence, so we'll do a significant review on those ventures, including bankruptcy, criminal record checks, anti-money laundering, etc. We do preparation for the issuers, so we call that investor translation services, whereby we help investors to understand the presentations of those issuers or ventures by putting them through a rigorous pitch process. And ultimately we match. So we match online, in person, through webinars, and other activities. And so the benefits are it's super cost effective, no cost to investors, very low cost, single fee for the entrepreneurs. It's private. We make those custom connections. There's a significantly wide range of investment opportunities. It's trusted and registered, and it does provide that single access point. And those target investors at present, given the regulatory environment we operate in, these are accredited investors. So 3.8% of the population roughly represents this base alongside financial institutions. So these are endowments, asset managers, high net worth individuals, family offices, and they're patient impact first. So they're looking for those impact investments that I talked about. On the venture side, already talked about that, but these are, again, social environmental impact issuers. So from renewable energy to sustainable food to affordable housing to fair trade shoes. It's a very significant mix, but all these ventures that are looking for capital of up to $10 million on an individual venture basis and $50 million for funds. And they're relatively small, so up to $25 million in capital. Simple process. Folks go through registration, application review, and matching, not unlike you would do for applying for capital through a financial institution or through working on your application on another online site. And that review process, as I said, is very rigorous. So we look at four kind of major quadrants of review. One is management and governance, so making sure that folks have those details lined up. On impact, review folks, do they meet a standard? Are they able to produce data on their impact on a regular basis? Can they communicate the right kind of story and narrative of what they're doing around improving the impact? Financials, so just as you would have in any other investment, making sure you tick those boxes on having the right pro formas, reviewed or audited financial statements, and having the right kind of references in place and the right kind of business plan. This gives you a sense of what the website looks like. It, again, is a fairly simple, clean platform, provides a document deal room for investors to be able to take a look at documentation, including business plans, etc. And also for investors to be able to display their information via YouTube video, SlideShare deck, their management bios, etc. Consolidates the due diligence process for investors and ventures, and allows you to provide a great platform to be able to look for capital from the folks we work with. Solid team behind us, a great group of people that I have the good fortune of working with. Chief Compliance Officer, 25 years of experience in financial services, worked at BMO, Alpha, CIBC, and our associate on the file, Christina Sinopoli, who is a graduate of Schulich, worked at the City of Toronto and local BIA. A great core team, and then an outstanding board behind us as well, and key advisors in the financial services industry. And then great partners as well. As I said, I mean, Torys, they are the greatest securities law firm I know we're in Gallings right now, so I probably shouldn't say that, but they're awesome. They're just unbelievable people. And then those others that I mentioned previously. So as I wrap up, some next steps for us before we get into dinner. Our focus is on outreach and pipeline building, so getting out there to identify those issuers and investors that are a real fit for us. We had our public launch at the Toronto Stock Exchange on September 19th, so we're very excited to be able to do that. And we're looking forward to expansion in a number of different ways. One is working across the country into Quebec, BC, Alberta, and Atlantic Canada. Some potential opportunities in the U.S. as well. And then as the regulatory environment, which will be spoken about later on today, advances to allow for crowdfunding, that we believe that we have the right kind of platform and processes in place to be a player in that marketplace. So that is the sum of it in 25 minutes or less. And I'll welcome any questions, I guess, during dinner. So thank you. Or now.
If there are a couple of questions, please let them come now. Anybody?
Do you happen to know a website or resource that lists lots of social venture financing, like through government or whatever? Like, is it on the socialfinance.ca, or does MaRS have one?
So there's a few places you can go for that. One is we have a knowledge hub on impactinvesting.marsdd.com. So our platform that has a fund database as well as sources of capital. MaRS also has a relationship with the funding portal, and so through the MaRS website there's also access there, which is great. And then there are other available resources through our various partner networks too. So I'm happy to send those along to Elite, and that can be further shared. Desire.
What is the general turnaround time to secure investment through this new pre-vetted system that you've come up with? And how would it compare to traditional checks and balances, back and forth, tedious processes?
So, I mean, in terms of expediting the process of raising capital, I think I don't think that changes. I think that it will take folks, 3 to 6 months to go through a proper capital raise, and maybe even longer. It could take up to a year. So I think that we're not able to change that, the length of that. What we are able to do is provide a consolidated due diligence package for investors and a vetting that is able to demonstrate that these particular issues have met a certain standard, which is going to expedite the review process for investors. So instead of you having to gather it from different sources, it packages in one spot.
But in expediting that portion, how much time just in that area do you expect to be saved?
Well, I mean, I think it can save a few months in terms of back and forth with investors, but I still believe, I mean, it's difficult for us to say that we're able to speed up your investor relations process. We wouldn't have enough data to be able to demonstrate that. We've been in full operations for 6 weeks, and so we would hope we're going to be able to expedite that process. But ultimately, I think capital raising, and this will be probably spoken about afterwards by Jonathan. I mean, it's a long-term process. But whether we would be able to tighten your timeline, I wouldn't be able to say that with certainty. I know that might sound a bit mealy-mouthed, but it's the truth.
One last question.
Thanks. So you showed a profile there, right? Of a venture that's trying to raise funds.
Yes.
Can anyone invest in that company, or is it only registered investors that register through the SVX?
So there's a few things to think about there. One is that through the SVX, only registered investors can access these investment opportunities. But the SVX is also one portal amongst many that folks will use for raising capital. And so I can say this, so someone like a ZooShare, which is an identified issuer on the SVX, is also raising capital by the community bond process. And so they're using multiple avenues and mechanisms. And we certainly encourage that. It's not that you come to a single platform and it's silver bullet for you. I think, capital raising, again, not only is it a long-term process and effort, but there's many different avenues you need to use. We can narrow it down to connect you with that hot core of people that are really interested in these opportunities, which is going to hopefully speed you up and get you to people that you wouldn't otherwise get to. But there's lots of tools you have to apply.
Absolutely. Last question before dinner, please.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm wondering why the TSX is one of your partners. I mean, it's not like you're publicly floating your company, if you like. So this is really just an exchange so that company can meet potential investor. So I guess I'm wondering why the TSX is one of the partners.
Sure, that's a great question. I think there's a few reasons. One is their mission and motivation. So for they had champions from within at senior levels that were interested in driving impact investing, thought that was the right thing to do, primarily from a mission perspective, and then to a certain extent to see Canada from a market perspective lead in impact investing. And that's what their CEO said at our launch. So they see this as one of the means that Canada can help lead. I think a second piece as well is the opportunity around matching talent and interests. So within their organization, they have people that have listings, regulatory expertise, capital raising, investor relations, and they're keen not only to help their business, but also deep dive into other kinds of initiatives and projects like this. So it matches up with their talent interest to be able to support initiatives like the SVX. So those are a couple reasons, that they're engaged in this process, and if without them, there's no way we would have been able to do this. It would have been fundamentally a guy trying to sell orange futures. So we're glad they're a part of it.